Hello and welcome. This is Hawkissimo. Feel free to call me Hawk. And in this video, I wanted to talk about an overview of what my God guides are and how I lay them out, and really what my intended audience is. I'm setting up these God guides to cover um, introducing these gods to players that haven't played them before, and or players that have only had a limited amount of experience. Um, I'm mainly focusing on Clash, Arena, Joust, and Siege. And when we get into each of the videos, I'm going to show two different parts. I'm going to show a suggested ability sequence, and then I'm going to show two different builds, generally speaking, for the gods. One will be more self-centered for those times where you're solo queuing or really feel like you don't want to necessarily run the class as defensive as it maybe should be, particularly in case of warriors and guardians. And then the other would be more supporting when in fact that's appropriate for the god. So for example, my guide will try and cover all of the free god rotation gods, and then I'll get into some additional ones as we go. But let's talk about how I lay this out. We'll go into Amaterasu, for example. So like I said, I would go into the ability builder and show you how I feel that you can set up the progression of the abilities so that you can set the auto level should you so desire. Particularly helpful while you're getting used to the god and you're not going to remember everything that you should level, what order. And I'll explain how and why these sequences differ from conquest if I feel that's particularly appropriate. And then I'll come into the item builder, and I just wanted to show you, I'm not going to go through the whole item builder for Amma, but I wanted to show you the template that I use. So really, I go from top to bottom, left to right. The top line, the starter line, is always going to be the items that I think that you should build first. So I'll generally have a starter item, whichever boots I think you want, and then your two consumables. Then I come down in the core line, and I would generally go across the core line, and so as I'm suggesting items, you would be populating them here. Then I take a break because you'll have boots plus up to 4 items here, plus your starter. But at that point, you're ready to sell your starter and go into substitutional items. But because you get a relic free at first level, I take a pause and say, well, let's talk about what relics might be appropriate. So I'll list a couple relics here that would be appropriate for that particular god. Then I'll go into the flex picks, what you're most likely to sell your starter item for. If I had only 3 items here, then you're probably picking 2 items from down in this row. And we'll call this core line the A build. And I'll generally have the more selfish or solo queue build up in this line. And then the B line would basically still come across the starter line, but we'd skip the core line. Obviously, we still aren't relics. We skip the flex pick, but we come down to this line, and I'll have items down here. So in one example, my A build, I would have you go from boots into this line. But on the B build, I would have you go from boots down to this line. So that's an overview of how the guides will proceed. Again, I just want to point out that the meta is different for Conquest than it is for the other modes. And I'm trying to show introductory builds that I feel combine fun and effective to learn the god before we get into more advanced builds. Please, if you like this video, click the like. Feel free to subscribe. If you have comments, questions, feel free to put them below, and I'll do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. Thank you very much, and this is Hawkissimo signing out.